And so the mixture and the syncretism of all religions start, and you find a mixture. Say you find a meeting in Detroit of the local chapter of an international Jewish organization, meeting in unison with the Confraternity of the Sacred Heart and the Jewish and the Masonic Lodge, all perfectly good brothers in the Lord and sisters in the Lord. So they have sort of an amalgam, and they all feel good about it. And the Catholics worship Christ, and the Jews worship God, and the Masons have their own version of God. But we're all human, so it leaves you in peace. And there's cooperation, financial, social, political, and there's peace. Isn't that what we're all supposed to do, Bernard? So it's a very tempting thing. Instead of some fiery pope or some fiery theologian or some subtle preacher saying, no, there's a basic truth. Outside the church, there's no salvation. You can't be a good anything but a good Catholic if you want to be saved. One way or the other, you have to get grace through Christ, through the church. That's unacceptable. Politically incorrect and socially unacceptable today. So that's the great crisis in the church from the point of view of faith. The crisis undermining the church from another side is the crisis of the papacy.
Now, related to a New Age philosophy, of course, is the feminist ideology, which has also pervaded the church recently.
It has. Feminism is a new sort of not a heresy. It's not a heresy because they haven't been able to work out, despite their best efforts, and there's a flood of books, Bernard, for the last 5-7 years. I stopped buying the books finally, unless it's an outstanding book, outstanding in venom or outstanding in historical research. But the flood of documents supporting feminism and pushing it is so great that you can't speak about it as a heresy, because they have not found a theological framework to justify their claims. But what they have is an intense emotion and passion. And it's a very funny thing, though, that when you come to talk to feminists and frequent their organizations and frequent their circles and their study groups, you always find two things coming immediately. You find that as they progress in their feminism, their feminist passion and the feminist emotion and feminist enthusiasm, they always end up with some form of Wicca. And Wicca is the old witchcraft, wherein the goddess Gaia and Sophia are worshipped, and in which lesbian love is blessed, and in which the earth is venerated as divine, and in which no mention of the son or the father are allowed. It's the mother and the daughter. In other words, feminism, theologically speaking, this is why they find it difficult to formulate an acceptable theology, because people are still inclined to have traditional ideas, is this: feminism aims directly at the heart of the Trinity. Like homosexuality, it wants to wipe out the idea of fatherhood and sonhood and daughterhood. It wants to have womanhood. And that's why they speak about woman church. That's the whole thing, womanhood and woman church. That's all there is. The rest is accretion, cultural accretion, and religious burdens taken over from patriarchal men and churchmen. It is, I suppose, if you were to ask me what is the most blasphemous form of side of Satan's attack on society, it is his sowing of feminism. It's a direct insult to Our Lady. She is the Queen of Heaven and the mother of all the living. She is the example of purity, chastity, motherhood, daughterhood. She's daughter of the Most High. She's mother of the Most High. And she's also the model of the wife. She was a real wife, a real spouse of St. Joseph. That's all attacked. Spouse, marriage, that's nothing to do with feminism, whatever. Women must be liberated from that. And lesbian love does liberate them from that.
So it's an attack on the family?
Ultimately on the Trinity. Because through the family they hope to attack the Trinity. Because if the family is wiped out in human society, the Trinity ceases to exist. The ultimate aim is the Trinity, and that is Satan's hatred of that Trinity of divine persons that said, be damned, go to hell. And that's his weapon against it. And if he can destroy that, Once you wipe out the Trinity, once you wipe out the whole idea of fatherhood and sonhood and daughterhood, and destroy the family, then there is no longer a divine family, there's no longer a human family, there's nothing but chaos. And that's in the social order, that's the most blasphemous success and effort that Satan has put through. The shame is this. The shame and the pity of women is this. Negatively speaking, the shame is this. Since women have got so far in entering what they call the patriarchal society, society hasn't got more merciful. The pilots, women pilots of helicopters and gunships who went to the Gulf were just as bloody-minded as the men. And we know that female executives in firms are the worst, the hardest to take. Men say, no, give me a crotchety old man any time you like. Give me the biggest son of a gun you can find, but not a woman. Cruel and merciless beyond belief once they depart from their role as woman. That's the negative side of the shame. The positive side of the shame is that being called, by the very fact of being a woman, being called to be a replica of Our Lady, her beauty, her motherhood, her virginity, her purity, her daughterhood, and her closeness to God. And how closer can a human person be than by having eternity in your womb, and your model being the mother of God, personal model. Such an honor conferred on any woman who wants to imitate it, and they have rejected it. It's the shame of feminism, and it makes one cry at the lack of wisdom, the lack of perception, and also the hatred Satan has. He remembers one day in the garden when he was told, wait for her heel. She's going to walk on your heel. She's going to walk on your head. You're going to be crushed by a woman. And her seed will be your undoing. So he hates that. You know, there's one scene when Marie Bernadette Soubirous was having the first visions of Our Lady in Lourdes. Remember that scene, the third time? She came down, she found the lady standing there with yellow roses in her feet, and a yellow sash and this marvelous face, and she was smiling. She was smiling. And she had this strange joy. And when Bernadette said to her, who are you? She had this extraordinary joy, and she said, I am the Immaculate Conception. Said it in Bernadette's dialect. And then, but the first day Bernadette went down, she didn't know what to do. And she had an apron, and she always kept her rosary beads in the apron. She got her rosary beads because she thought it was the devil. And started saying the Our Father. And she saw a lady take her own rosary beads from her sash and say the Our Father, silently. And then she went to the first Hail Mary, and she saw Mary's fingers moving to the first bead. And so she went through the whole deck, and then she suddenly realized that it wasn't the devil. The devil wouldn't say the rosary. She progressed in talking at the second or third day, and then the word spread around the local peasantry to which she belonged, she was a peasant girl, that she was talking to the La Vierge. So all the peasants came down beside her, and they used to pass notes over to her and whisper, say, ask Our Lady to cure my calf, ask Our Lady to bring my husband back from Paris. Request them, and Our Lady was laughing at them pleasantly and saying, yes, I will, no, I can't, etc. And at a certain stage, in the middle of this, when they could only hear Bernadette's voice giving the messages and getting the answers from this virgin they couldn't see, in another of the caves, because this place was lined with grottos and caves, they heard the dirtiest, most threatening, smelling voice of about 1,000 lions hungry for flesh. It was obviously Satan's disruption of the scene. And everybody hushed. There wasn't a sound when they heard this, like wild animals waiting to tear you limb from limb. And Bernadette sort of appealed to Our Lady. And all Our Lady did, she didn't say a word. She just turned her head and looked at the mouth of the cave and silence. Silence. That's Our Lady's power. And if they only realized that's what they can inherit as women. If they want to change society, they want to cure men's chauvinism, she's the one who can do it. If they turn to her, you know, they want to make the human race more compassionate, she's the mother of all compassion. But what a shame they missed that opportunity, missed their vocation, and they're killing the fruit of their own womb. What are they going to say to Our Lady when she says, I was a mother too? And you were a mother and you killed your baby? You killed 3 babies? And here they are looking at you. What does a woman say when she faces that accusation? What depth of hell is deep enough to hide you? Where can you hide from your shame?